How much time do you spend on your phone? And is that your main distraction or is something else? Either way, I'm going to share a little exercise with you today that you can try to avoid the distractions and keep your focus where you want it. I love listening to educational podcasts and books. I've been doing this for a really long time, and one of the things that I love about it is that I can be doing something productive in my house, like dishes or folding laundry, that doesn't really take my brain power, and I can be accomplishing something in addition with my mind by listening to a podcast or an audiobook at the same time. But I did notice eventually that pretty soon I was taking my phone with me everywhere I went in the house. I would play a podcast while I cleaned the kitchen, while I made breakfast, while I did the dishes. I would even set my phone on the counter when I used the bathroom. I didn't want to waste any time by just doing one task during a time period when I could be accomplishing two tasks at the same time. Then one day I found out that my phone automatically tracks my screen time. And when I looked up my screen time, I was pretty shocked by how much time I had been spending on my phone. I knew that part of that time was spent doing less productive things like checking social media and getting sucked into the scroll, spending time that I hadn't planned to spend. So I didn't change anything right away. Instead, I started paying attention to the time I was spending on my phone and the ways I was using my phone, because I wasn't sure how much of that total screen time was spent doing productive things that I was fine with and how much was wasting time. I noticed one more thing, that when my alarm on my phone woke me up in the morning, I would turn it off and then I would just quickly check my email, which turned into quickly looking at Instagram and maybe Facebook or Twitter. And I would get sucked right into the scroll. I realized that those quick checks quickly took pretty good chunks of time. So after observing myself for a while, I decided to go one full morning without looking at my phone. And to remind myself in the morning, I powered my phone down at night the night before. So the next morning, my phone being off reminded me of my plan. So I left my phone in my room and I went about my morning. I was kind of shocked and disturbed by how often I had the urge to look at my phone. Like, if I was working on something and there wasn't anybody around to talk to, I would have the urge to turn on a podcast. And if I was transitioning from one task to another, I would feel the need to check my phone just for a quick little break, which I know would have probably turned into more than a quick break. And it was to the point where I felt like I was wasting time if I went into the bathroom and didn't have my phone with me to listen to a podcast at the same time. The transition moments were especially interesting to me. It was like I had become so uncomfortable with even these short little moments of time that I couldn't endure them very well without filling the time with something. And the moment after realizing I didn't have my phone there and choosing not to go and get it was really uncomfortable. But why was it so uncomfortable? I realized that this was connected to mindfulness. Those little moments were opportunities for me to just be still and connect to the present moment and just experience the moment. But I had been in such a habit of filling every spare moment that I was stealing those opportunities for mindfulness from myself. So when I noticed that feeling of discomfort when I couldn't turn to my phone, I tried to recognize that that moment was an opportunity for me to be mindful. The easiest way for me to think about choosing to be mindful in a moment, and you've heard me talk about this in other videos if you've watched them, is to think about your five senses and what each of them is experiencing. Just stop what you're doing or keep doing what you're doing, but change your mind's focus to what you're experiencing. So I have a two-part challenge for you, and you can apply this to your phone if that is your main distraction, like it is for many of us. But if you have something else that's more distracting for you, you can apply it to that. Another example of a distraction might be if you drive a lot and you always get in the car and turn on the radio rather than driving in silence. Part one is to try powering down your phone for a whole morning or afternoon or evening. Choose a time that you would normally turn to your phone every now and then. This, having your phone powered down, will help you really notice how often you turn to your phone and catch yourself before using your phone anyway. My suggestion is that before you do the challenge, you take a look at your phone's screen time records and see what you're averaging for your weekly or daily phone usage. And then after a week or so of trying this, compare and see how much time you've managed to save yourself. Part 2 is if you have those moments of discomfort like I did, try to use that moment of discomfort as a reminder to either pay attention to your thoughts or become present and mindful by taking an inventory of your 5 senses and focusing on experiencing that moment more mindfully. If you're using those phoneless or distractionless moments to pay attention to your thoughts and you find that some of those thoughts are leading you to worrying or anxiety, I also have a video that's all about how to stop worrying, and I'll link to that as well. I have another video that talks about using your 5 senses to move into mindfulness and gives a specific example of a technique that I've used that really works well for me to try that. So I will link to that if you want to check it out. Meanwhile, come say hi over on Instagram. I'm at Raising Memories, and I will see you in the next video.